Hello all, and since I am not on site, I am not privy to all of the guests. I will just say Skipper, Master Chief, members of the wardroom, Chief's Mess, First Class Mess, and loved ones of Petty Officer Hessick, and most importantly, Marcella. This is the last time you will hear me call OS1 Petty Officer Hessick. From here on out, it is Aaron or Hessicat, or maybe even the recent discovery of Hectic. Before I continue about Aaron, I will tell you a quick story about my one and only trip to SIG. 6 years ago, my sister ran the photo lab in SIG, and I was on PCS leave on my way to USS McCandless down in Texas. Ingleside, Texas was a naval station. It wasn't open very long, but it was there. They had Mobile, Pascagoula, and Ingleside were all built on the same platform. Well, in any case, I was new to the Space A community, or as the old timers said, Mac flights. And I got underway since I was on leave from school out of Great Lakes. I was on leave and I was en route to SIG. I made it from the Southern Illinois Command and Scott Air Force Base. I'm looking at my notes a little bit. That's why my eyes go down. In any case, I was in my service blues. You had to be in uniform back then to travel Space A Mac flight. And I was in my, as the old timers would say, Johnny Cash's. Well, I managed to make it from Scott Air Force Base in Southern Illinois to Rhoda without any problems. Then the roadblocks, or as the Airedales would say, the chocks were put on. So when you're hanging out at the terminal, you go from the lounge where you watch CNN a little bit, then you go back and you look at a monitor to see if any flights change, and repeat. Back and forth, back and forth. Well, this Master Chief, I don't know what his rate was, but I knew he was a brown shoe. He seen me in my blues, and he said, "Where are you going, EN1?" And I just said, SIG. I wasn't specific. My sister told me she had been in the Navy several years prior, very experienced, and she said, "Don't be specific, be pretty vague." Well, this Master Chief took me under his wing, and he got me on board a flight, and next thing you know, we're landing in SIG. So in any case, once he found out I was going on leave rather than coming back from a leave or on a mission trip, he wasn't so happy at helping me out. I don't think anybody lost their seat in the process, but I did gain one. Anyway, Aaron and I reported to the Avoca, Pennsylvania NOSC about the same time. Actually, I think he got there a little earlier than I did. Not to bore you with details, but to suffice it to say there are two navies, at least for this speech. There are several other ways to slice it up as well: pack fleet, land fleet, sub, surface, aviation, and even the major commands in Europe, Africa, etc. But I am speaking of USN sailors and USNR, Naval Reserve sailors. Drilling reservists, which are USNR sailors, serve a vital mission but have a day job back home. They have regular jobs, most of them. An active reservist, like I was, served to support the drilling reservists. Now, during my 26 years of active duty, I was aboard 4 ships and 6 other commands, so 10 commands total. Three of which were Navy Operational Support Centers, which is a fancy way of saying Naval Reserve Center. USN sailors are detailed to NOSCs to give them a little bit of a slower pace, give them a slower job to allow them to work on a degree or rest up for their next duty station, which is more than likely going to be arduous. Now, as the command chief of the 3 NOSC, I had several USN sailors working for me, and of course several active reservists, which at one time were called TARs. And then they changed the name to full-time support. It's all under the branching class of 32. Even though I was a TAR, I never acted like one, and neither did Aaron. You may ask, why would he act like one if he wasn't one? He was a USN sailor. Well, no doubt you've heard of osmosis. Aaron never minded putting in the overtime and was not a clock puncher like a good portion of the FTS community was. I knew back then they were called PNs, personnelmen. 2 of them at 2 separate NOSCs. And I never went back-to-back NOSCs, ever. But I knew several that did. I knew 2 PNs that you could set your clock. 16:30, they were rolling out. Well, Aaron never minded putting in the overtime and was not a clock puncher like I just stated. He supported my ideas and submitted plenty of his own, and a good portion of those were put into effect. Now I'm going to go off on some tangents here a little bit. So I should be looking straight at you. Well, we had a small command up there. There were 3 recruiters or 2, I don't even recall, and a staff of about 8 and about 100 reservists, selected reserve. Well, Aaron was a kind of a PT Nazi, and the recruiter was aviation, a parachute rigger, was a kind of a PT Nazi when it was appropriate. So Scranton, Pennsylvania has a pretty good St. Patty's Day. Starts out with a fun run, very short, about a mile and a half, but a fun run, not like a PRT. And then it goes into a parade, and then the party commences, and there's a lot of green beer consumed. So between Petty Officer Grisanti and Aaron, we came up with 4 of us sailors going to run in the fun run. But even though it was a fun run, it was ran pretty legitimate in that you had to register, you had to get wristbands, you had to get numbers put on your chest and your back, etc. So we were all setting up, lining up to get our bands and all that, and everybody was in green, all naturally because it's St. Patrick's Day. And all different kinds of green and different outfits, they were real sharp. And here we are, because they had asked me ahead of time, what are we going to wear? What are we going to wear? And I said, we're going to wear our PTU. Gold shirt, blue shorts, USN. Well, when we get there, we were like turds in punch bowls because we were the only ones that weren't wearing green. And they both, Grisanti, even the skipper, she ran with us, and Aaron, they were like, oh, we're going to feel bad. They were pouting and whatnot. Well, the race commenced. Aaron, he's way up front. So anyway, it wasn't long, and it wasn't a race. Like I said, it was a fun run. But it wasn't long. We're spread out quite a bit. And because everybody and their brother was wearing green, they didn't stand out per se. But we did. Yellow, blue and gold, blue and gold. Well, in any case, you would hear it every once in a while. You'd see a crowd, and they'd see you coming, and then they realize who you were, what you were doing. And it was like, go Navy, go Navy, go Navy. So we got to the end, the finish line, and they were pretty happy at that point since we were wearing the Navy colors. Also along the line of the PT, since Aaron was the PT Nazi. He was our PRT coordinator, or CFL. I like to run at lunch. I never did like to run, but I like to run, since I had to, at lunch. And we had a pretty good sound system out there in the drill hall with all the treadmills and the E-core machines. And I had a CD of Chris Christopherson that I would play. And that just drove Aaron crazy. He made comments about, yeah, I'll PT at lunch with you as long as I don't got to listen to that twang, or stuff like that. It was funny. And talking about PT, here's one for the books. And Aaron will tell you, I was big. Now at reserve centers or NOSCs, you don't do a plan of the day. You do a plan of the month. But it serves the same purpose. You schedule everything through your PB for T, and you schedule classrooms, you schedule the conference room, you schedule the drill hall, what's available when, etc., etc. Training, is the medical department available to give CPR to, just the whole 9 yards that we're all used to. But PT, we would PT on drill weekends. And the PT uniform was slow. They started on the West Coast, if I recall, and they worked their way east. And then everyone finally got them issued, but we were still slow to start wearing them. Now, the staff, we were wearing them all the time. But there was people, sailors that were dragging their feet. So I told the SK1 storekeeper, which became a logistics specialist, and OS1, Aaron, I said, we are going to, I put it in the plan of the month, PT for our PRT, and we're going to wear the PTU, because that's what it says, PTU for the PRT. Well, there was some sailors out there in the wrong uniform, just had hag tag stuff. And I had Aaron draw a line, or I think he used some tape, actually, not duct tape, but Scotch tape or what, not Scotch tape either. Well, it escapes me. But anyway, some tape across the floor. Masking tape. Before all this fancy blue tape and green tape. And I put everybody on one side that wasn't in uniform in the PTU, and the other ones that weren't. And then between Aaron and the LS1, we went right down the line. And if they were issued a uniform and the LS1 could prove it, but they weren't in it, they didn't get to run the PRT. Which some might say, well, that's a good deal. Maybe they didn't want to run the PRT. Well, I had a pretty neat habit of making people do things. If they didn't want it, I would take it out of my time. So, needless to say, they wish they'd have done it on the scheduled time in the POM. Well, enough of the tangent. Of all the sailors I was stationed with in Avoca, Aaron is the only one I stay in touch with routinely. Now, granted, if I had jumped on the Facebook train, then I would stay in touch with more. And not like I say it like it's a one-way deal or it's past. It isn't. I could jump on it tonight. But I don't need it. So, but Aaron, I stay in touch with Skipper. I stay in touch with Aaron Hessick. And I never knew why we called him that for a while. And it was Hessick, Aaron Thomas. After I retired, and Aaron got stationed on USS Mobile Bay, we stayed in touch. And he was coming back from a deployment, and I asked him, is there any word in the rumor mill at the scuttlebutt there about a Tiger Cruise? I hadn't heard. Well, pretty soon he's like, hey, we're doing a Tiger Cruise. You said something about it. You wanna ride? And I'm like, heck yeah. By then I'd been out of the Navy. I'd been retired, 3 years, I think. So I said, yeah, well, all you got to do is get your way to Pearl Harbor and then, get back from San Diego. And at the time, I had retired out of Avoca, Pennsylvania, which is up near Scranton, and then I moved to Maryland, near the Air Force Base down there. So wasn't a big deal to catch a flight. So, and his sister, Amber, went along as well. That was a real good time. That was the first time that I was ever aboard ship without being on the watch bill. And even if I wanted, I couldn't have been on the watch bill because I'd never been on that type of ship. My ships were guided missile frigates and Knox-class frigates and one tank landing ship. So, in any case, it was the first time. And Aaron pulled some strings, talked to his chief, talked to the CMC, and got me bunked into Chief's Mess. So that was a good deal. I mean, I would have bunked in with the crew berthing because I was his guest. But the fact that there was available bunks and I was in the Chief's Mess made it even better. So I was doing some math while I was putting this together. The last time I lived in crew berthing was 1994. I was a first class aboard USS McCandless, my second ship, and I was aboard there from 92 to 94, and that was the last time. And that was a Knox-class frigate, and their crew berthing, I said troop berthing like I was aboard the tank landing ship. But in any case, it wasn't like what you would even have on the Mobile Bay. You had to leave the berthing compartment to make a head call, go to the bathroom for the civilians. So being in there was pretty good. And to help you with your math there, Aaron, I know it's a busy day and whatnot for you. 1994, that was 6 years prior to you entering the Navy. So that was the last time I was in crew berthing. And you were probably in junior high or 5th or 6th grade. I'm not sure how they structure the schools over there in Ohio, or if they even have schools in Ohio, come to think of it. Just messing with you. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for asking me to be your guest speaker, even though I am not a good speaker. And I was second fiddle, so I hope this does work out for you. And this is the first time I've done a retirement ceremony speaking, and I've only spoke at 2 others, where I was allowed to sit down rather than stand at a podium and without any pants on. No, that's not true. I've never wore pants on the previous ones either. I apologize for being so brief, but you know how I go off on tangents, which I did. I actually pinned in 3 tangents there. They all happen to be PT related. I do have one more PT related. It just came to mind. We would run our PRT in Avoca. We would run it at a school track. Pretty common, 6 laps. That's a mile and a half. As I like to say, 7,920 feet. And I hope my math hasn't misjudged me. Well, one track used to do it on was green. I don't know whether it was green blacktop, green rubberized, what, but anyway, we get over there and it's closed. They had some big major contract going on and they were using it. And I was upset a little bit because Aaron and a couple of the other guys, the CFLs for the units, didn't do their homework. Well, we've always ran it here. Well, you got about 70 reservists standing there and 10 staff. We got to do something. So what did we do? And our time was slowly running out because we'd already done our sit-ups and push-ups at the NOSC. So it's not like you can take an hour and a half and then do your mile and a half run. So another one of the guys says, "Oh, I know of another school. It's only about 6 blocks away." and there was another school, and it was only 6 blocks away. And the reason it was so close, but being in a different school district, is because of the river up there that separates all the boroughs. Even though it's not New York, Pennsylvania up there has boroughs. So anyway, we go over there. Well, this track was orange and not green. So to look at it, it didn't even look. We're up on kind of a hill, a berm, and it just didn't even look a quarter mile. It looked a half mile. And I'm like, there's no way. And everybody's, well, it sure looks. I said, yeah, it looks like it to me. But we got to know for sure. But there was just something with the eyes and whatnot. And Aaron had I don't know whether he had it on his hip or his wrist or whatnot, but he had something that would track him. And he hit the reset button, and he just took off, started running. And he ran one lap and stopped it at the end, and he said, it's a quarter mile. And sure enough, it was. And that ended up being where we ran our PRTs from then on out. So anyway, I would like to give a wholehearted congratulations to Aaron, to you on your retirement from the world's greatest Navy. And I do mean the world's greatest Navy. Also, here's wishing you and Marcella and the kids a long, blissful post-Navy life. Take care, stay in touch, have a good time, and I wish I was there in person. It would be my second trip to Sigonella, but I don't see me doing that now. Out.